We are back here at SSL Premier Season 2. It's time for Dark versus Maru. The return of this epic matchup. We've seen it so many times in past seasons of Pro League and past seasons of GSL, SSL. These guys have been going at it, and it does look like Maru has the advantage in Legacy of the Void. Dark was generally the favorite when it came to matches way back when.
Yeah, very different changes when it comes to this most recent expansion. And the head-to-head can look a little bit deceitful. And even when you look at the head-to-head predictions for how these players will match up against each other, even if you like plug it into a legal act or something, it says it's about 50-50. Well, it tells a very different story when you look at their last time they met. The last time these two players played off against each other was last season in SSL, and it was Maru that came, or it was Dark that came out ahead 2-1. However, just last season in GSL, it was Maru that won not one but two series, and I believe the round of 16 against Dark to knock him out. So these guys do have a little bit of a history, but Maru does seem to be on a little bit of a hot streak. He took out Solar just last week. Now he has to face another Zerg player, albeit still a very strong one. It's Dark.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the big close matches for every caster that was involved in discussing this, thinking about this. You can see that Dark is doing quite well for himself. He's sitting at 4-2. He's taken out Innovation. He's taken out Classic. Those are two of the bigger names to get alive and BL as well. They go down in close ones to Stats and Hero. But definitely this is a big turning point for him. If he can take this one going into two more hard matchups against Deer and Solar, he's going to be in a really good spot for playoffs to get a much better, safer spot, I should say.
Especially after he fixes his hair. But he's taking out two Terrans. There's only so many more Terrans left out there for him to take out. His Versus Terran has been so strong this season, even good enough, like we said, to take out Innovation. Yeah. So coming up against Maru, this is a guy that was one of the four horsemen of the Terran apocalypse. Lately, he's been a little bit shaky and has kind of been usurped by Gumiho, who has really just been crushing it. Maru's story this season has been, a little bit of a struggle as well. You can see he finished first place in 2015. That's just a little bit of a long time ago.
The first SSL we had, Maru was the champion. He defeated Dream, I believe, in a TVT series.
That's a name I've not heard for
I know. But it is the truth. It did take him out, and that means he is an SSL champion. One of the 6 that we have out of the 10 players that we have in SSL Premier, which is pretty ridiculous. So this guy looking for another one. He had a kind of shaky Premier Season 1 season. I think he went down to fast lane, but clawed his way back into Season 2, and another big match for him awaits against Dark.
Our first map of the series will be Abyssal Reef. We've seen this map almost unanimously in every one of our series, and now we get a chance to watch Maru take on Dark in game number 1.
Fly, better fly. Jin Air.
There we go.
Oh, you joined me for that one, Rapid.
We got that synergy.
Series 4. You jumped on in.
Takes a little bit of time. Our purple Zerg player is Dark, and his blue Terran opponent, this is Maru. Would have thought they'd give him green because of the Jin Air, but no, it's going to be blue. And there he is. So we've got a TVZ. I love watching TVZ. It's my favorite matchup to watch, and we get a chance to watch two of the best players at it. I want to say that maybe Dark has a slight favor, although if I check back and check the after hours with Wolf and Valdez predictions, you guys also were predicting a Dark victory.
Yeah, especially going into this map. Obviously, we didn't have that information about what maps they would be playing on, but this one on Abyssal Reef, I'd have to say Dark is definitely Iberia's favorite coming into this one. He is so good at the defensive play, and going into the very late game, getting 4 bases, defending it, and playing that kind of ultra style with his infestors that he uses to get up into Hive. And Maru, he's not as solid and quick as Innovation with his builds, with his pushes, but he definitely offers in a little bit more creativity, right? He's got many different builds that he has in his
repertoire.
Yeah, in his repertoire. Thank you, Rapid.
Gotcha.
And so he definitely could catch Dark unawares in a couple of these. He's definitely better at doing his research coming into a matchup and saying, hey, I think Dark's a little bit predictable here. Maybe I can take him out.
Well, Dark has always been one of those fearsome late-game Zergs, so you kind of have the idea that he's going to try to push the game that direction. It's just been very difficult lately for Zerg players to hold on against this relentless Terran pressure. We saw it earlier today with Bjol versus Innovation. If you don't absolutely crush a sizable chunk of the Terran economy, it just keeps chugging away. And against macro god like Innovation, that's really devastating. Now, this time around, it's versus Maru, whose macro is not way up there. It was always about his creative micro plays, things like boosting his medevacs forward to drop on top of vulnerable chunks of army, or coming out with innovative builds. Lately, I feel like TVZ for Maru has been him trying to innovate beyond and just not succeeding in his Reaper micro. So this time we'll see how good that Reaper micro is. Okay, get the Zergling. There we go. A+. You did your thing.
A+.
And there's no more
Getting
Reapers
one
behind it. So
that's all you got to do for an A+ from Rapid.
You get a Zergling. Hey, a lot of times we don't even see that happen.
Give this guy an A+ and rate my professor. Very easy grading from Rapid here. But yeah, you're right. He got about as much damage as can be expected from him.
I think there's also spicy peppers on Rate My Professor. I don't know. It's been a while since I've had professors to rate. The only professor I'm going to be looking for here is either Maru or Dark, trying to teach us the way to play this matchup. He's going to be swapping over the starport, and I expect a Raven out of this. And yeah, there it is. So he was watching Innovation play earlier, and it's like,
that's a good
Raven build. Just built a Raven. So that's going to come out along with the two Hellions that are popping out right now. I don't think this is going to be a big mystery. Pushing on by the Queens at the front, making their way into the main. How much damage is he going to get done?
Well, moving in, already going to take out two of these drones. The Hellions still very healthy. Oh,
some nice angles, lining them up. He won't reach the vulnerable drones out in the front. Only 4 go down. He keeps the remaining Hellions back at home.
Hellions are watching TV in the supply depot, spying in the window. That's not what you want to be watching, Hellions. Go do your job.
That's where the Hellions turn into Marines as the guys jump out and try to run into the supply depot.
He's still looking at the supply depot.
I'm pretty sure those were supposed to be at some point rallied across the map. Instead, they come out a little bit later. And here's Dark already heading to Lair.
Yeah, this is the Dark way of things. Get your Lair out. And he is just going to be looking to drone up this third base. I don't think we're going to see any kind of very aggressive play. He would have already thrown down a Roach Warren. I think he's just trying to get this tech out, make sure that he has his detection, and just play it a little bit safer. Here comes the first Raven that he did spot.
There's Queens in position, and he'll even get some hits off on the Raven as it runs by. But speaking of running by, here come the next 4 Hellions. A little bit indecisive. He picks one off at the front. Dark doing such a good job at stemming this pressure. And really, you have to do this if you're going to skip Roach Tech. A lot of times, Zerg players get punished for doing just that. This time, it looks like that opportunity won't be there for Maru.
Yeah, and again, it's just about safe play. It's about taking as little damage as possible. You can see that the third base doesn't get saturated right away, even though he's up at 50 drones. He wants to make sure, I mean, he saw all the Hellions, he saw the Ravens coming out, so he knew what the follow-up from Maru was going to be. So I think in his mind he was like, okay, let me defend this, and then let me explode with a bunch of, upgrades, a bunch of drones, a bunch of tech. And so far he's done a really good job. Not too much damage at all. I mean, a couple of drones. He's held it off, for a very long time. The Ravens still do remain, but just got to deal with these follow-up turrets, and he should be in a pretty good spot.
So a lot of times, like Terrans versus Protoss versus all that Oracle harass would just go triple CC so that they could lose a bunch of workers but then replenish them. kind of the same idea here for Zerg. They can afford to lose a few workers to this Raven Harass, which is no longer quite as upfront with the damage thanks to that auto turret change where it lasts for longer but does less initial damage. They can afford to lose some workers early just because they already have their 3 bases up and they can macro that out. However, with the way Larva works, that still does take a little bit of a toll on their army, and you can see Dark still sitting at only 18, 19 now. It is a very low count, so you don't want to produce offensive units until you absolutely have to. And coming up next, it will be what looks to... I guess, the armory is coming out already, and a bunch of upgrades about to hit with that +1/+1 almost finished.
Yeah, we got a little micro push coming out of Maru here. He does have the Stin and 1/1 about to finish. Adding in a cheeky tank too, which is always just fantastic on Abyssal Reef. I always love when you can get a tank down here on the low ground because you can protect it so easily. I'll say it every time I see it. I really do love it. Also good for protecting your auto turrets. And this is just a really annoying way for Maru, while he gets his 3rd base up and running and his production back at home, to just say, hey, you can't mine from half of one of your bases, so you find a way to deal with this.
We will be boosting out a couple of reinforcing medevacs full of Marines. Oh, with that scan, a lot of times you see Terran players want to snipe the creep tumor that's on the ramp. That's almost exactly what that was designed for. I think it'll take another scan to get rid of that, but if you can control that tiny little ramp's creep spread, that's the way to go.
He killed the Queen.
Wow.
Queen actually died. It must have been really low.
It might have very well been from earlier. A lot of times Zerg players will use the Queen to tank the damage from the auto turrets early on. Maru being pushed all the way back, forced to run away from harassing that upper expansion. A couple of banelings rolling in. Those won't be enough to take out any SCVs. In the meantime, Maru picking off some stray overlords on the map.
Yeah. You can see why that was pretty much just a micro push. It wasn't a huge serious threat. It was just like something going in there behind the natural saying, hey, I'm going to do some damage. Here comes the Lings, though, from behind, trying to get a surround. He's going to pick up the 2 Hellbats instead of the Marines, saying, hey, I value the 2 Hellbats instead of 8 Marines. Kind of a funny choice there.
Double auto turret instead thrown down. I don't think that's the best usage. Just a perfect pull does prevent most of that damage from being possible. These Ravens continuing to be annoying. Absolutely nothing to deal with them. This for single player. You can upgrade that Hydra range even further and take them out. Unfortunately, it's not. Also, your Zerglings can't jump up walls. So I think we can all be a little bit happier about that.
Sad times. For the Zerg, of course. Well, we do have an infestation pit on the way, as well as the 5th base.
This is just so comical. It's like when Oracles used to put stasis wards in Zerg Mineral Alliance. It's just going to keep happening over and over again.
It's just an annoyance, you know. Yeah. He got a nice bit of damage killing the Queen, but he's never actually going to break the back of the macro of the Zerg. And it's just little chip-aways that he can get. But again, ahead in upgrades, ahead in tech. Right now is Dark as he starts his hive, and still Maru hasn't found any big significant damage.
Finally going
4 Queens back here.
Yeah, for a drop, this is just the least successful I feel like you'll ever see. Dark continuing to be able to push Maru back, and this is just really playing into Dark's hands. His evil clutches. Maybe this base gets sniped, maybe it doesn't. Yeah, not enough Zerg there to stop that. It's going to get canceled. And a drop. Wow, Maru finally finding some stickiness with these drops, getting them to be effective. Nice takeout on the meta back from the high ground with the Queens. Inevitably able to push this back, but like we said earlier, hive almost done. This is just headed straight to Darktown.
Yeah, finally Maru finding a little bit of damage, you know, canceling that 5th, dropping into the 3rd at the same time. But again, it doesn't stop that Zerg train from coming down, and even Dark is getting aggressive with this one, trying to find these medevacs. Maru's not moving. He's going to snipe one by one.
And he even goes down. Can't escape. That's a big hit. If you look at the army supply, it's Dark in the lead now, heading up towards max with almost 80 workers. Oh man, Valdez, I don't know. This little tiny pokes and prods from Maru continue to be less and less effective.
Well, that's turret number 12, in this game. Something like that.
Observers pointing out that both Ravens finally did get picked off as those Spore Crawlers took them out when they went in to drop those auto turrets. So no more harassment from those Ravens. No more little drops will do. It is an out-of-control Zerg against Maru, who's now forced to push out on the map to try to get damage done.
We got a couple of Vipers out on the map. He's just going to go Ling Bane Hydra Viper for now. You do see the Ultralisk Cavern is on the way. And doesn't have a massive bank to make like 7 Ultras or anything like that, but even just 2 or 3 in the front to tank those tanks that are in the back line for the Terran will be very effective. And he can even, pull the tanks. He can Blinding Cloud the bio. Does have to deal with this drop that is behind the 4th base, which is definitely very annoying with the tanks to protect it. Nice bit of damage done here by Maru.
Yeah, he's even going to be able to just yank the tanks up onto the high ground, but instead I think he's more than willing to just take a little bit of damage. He still has 70 drones that are all mining for the most part. As long as he can just buffer with this base, it gives him time to position for what looks to be a crazy, insane flank.
And adrenal glands timing. 12 and a half minutes into the game.
That's the build. There we go.
Definitely the build for sure.
We figured it out. He's going to wrap around, bust up the tank, or at least he should. Yeah, there we go. The tank goes down, and so will so many of these SCVs.
And to take out already 11 of them. Thankfully, Maru was very ready for that push. I think he might have seen it with the sensor tower. I'm not sure if that was up right when that went down, but he stops the push, and he takes out the 4th base of Dark. Dark, he's going to desperately need a big fight here in just a second with those Ultras, with the Vipers. Let's see how he can do it. Look at that tank line in the back. It's looking pretty scary for Maru right now.
Dark's trying to buffer for this Ultra army to get fully upgraded. Yeah. Vipers, whoa, got to keep him safe. Pulling him back there towards the back. Kindness plating just finally finishes, and here come these fully upgraded Ultralisks.
Nice Blinding Clouds on a couple of the tanks. He's going to push off the creep here. Gets another couple of Blinding Clouds. That's exactly the engage he was looking for. We'll see how far he wants to push off the creep, takes out all 5 of the tanks, and keeps the Vipers alive.
Dark missed me with those siege tanks, man. Can't even see him. Taking him out, pushing the push it back. It's been unpushified, and now even though Maru wants to try to continue, there's just nothing he can do against so many Ultralisks.
The push has been unpushed for sure. Unpushing that button. And yeah, now he's going to take another couple of bases, retaking his 4th. Takes a 6th because now he is fully held on. But Maru, he's getting bases of his own. He's beginning to add in his own tech. You see Liberators coming in, Ghosts coming in. The big thing for me in that fight was that Dark cleaned up so much, but he kept so much of his army alive, Right. Most of the Ultras stayed alive. The 2 Vipers were still alive. That means that Dark doesn't have to deplete any more of his bank after that fight. This is a nice little maneuver by Maru, going for this weak hatchery.
Yeah, no creep spread up along that little arm on the north side. It's all been taken out, and it hasn't been replaced. So maybe that's a little bit of a weakness here for Maru, is now he'll take the next round of Terran aggression. Finally getting pushed out. No, infestors or anything crazy like that. But one thing that Dark always does with his army that most Zerg players do not is it continues to grow in quality. You see a lot of Zerg players just going for massive amounts of Ling Bane, sometimes Ling Bane Muta, sometimes you mix in a few spellcasters here and there, but Dark's army keeps getting bigger and better at the same time. Even going for a Spire now, might be looking for Mutas or more likely Broodlords. We're just heading into the late game, and this is where no Zerg, I feel, on the planet knows how to play late game ZVT better than Dark.
I would have to agree. I mean, we've seen him play so many times in this matchup in late game positions, and wow, that Viper tongue went really far back behind the Viper. That's got to hurt.
How did it yank the medevac behind the Viper?
Questions we'll never have answered, Rapid. But
do physics work that way in StarCraft? Can you just get the slingshot effect?
I suppose so.
Maybe that's the true micro.
Maybe it's because we're underwater. Wouldn't they pull them not as far, though?
More slowly? Yeah.
Huh.
No extractor is safe from the Viper hordes.
He was sucking out of that Hydra Den, too.
Indeed he was.
Got a couple of extractor locations at his 5th if he wants to continue to, drain that energy.
Yep, 2 or 3 bases still up and running, even though that push from Maru sniped 1 base. Oh my god, yanking every Liberator out of position. They'll try to get the re-siege. There's not a lot of anti-air right as I say that. The Hydra's come in and take it down. Okay, alright, I get the point, Dark. You've got it on lockdown. Kills off the Liberators. The Liberator range is up, or almost up. But he doesn't even have that many Liberators to use it on. His Ghosts also trying to get these snipes down, but even they are not the total answer to all of these Ultralists. Numbers are thinning, though, and it is a somewhat narrow choke point to try to come through. So as the Ultras get shaved off, Dark will back off for now.
The snipes are definitely good. They're going to be very key for taking out that front line. There's only one Ultralisk in this push now. And even though the Liberators weren't all that effective because of the Vipers, definitely the Ghost will be good.
Oh, Dark needs vision to the high ground there. He's taking so many tank shots that really blow up half his army as it runs through. Somewhat of an overstatement, but you get the idea. He will pull back. Maru is securing that 5th base for himself. And finally, there we go, yanking the tank off the high ground. No more damage for you. Whee! Parts just float away into nothingness.
Taking a fight with only Viper Hydra. Okay, here comes the Lings and the Banelings. The Parasitic Bomb even coming in. The tanks are going to be pulled as they try to siege, and the follow-up of the Ultras. But here, the Liberators trying to get in position. They're being sniped one by one as they siege.
Yeah, bad siege positioning on those Liberators. A little bit rough having the Ultras in the back, but they'll finally make their way to the front. Mass Repair will be good enough to defend this or the Planetary for now, but Dark continuing to get so much value, pushing forward, backing up, push and pull, but finally it feels like Maru has secured the bases he needs to continue pushing into this late game.
Yeah, he's definitely making a case for himself to have a chance to win this one in the late game, right? I mean, he's sniping out all the Ultras. There was no big answer for all those Ghosts. A bunch of them stayed alive. He still has 5 of them in his army, which means he can remax with other stuff, with tanks, with Liberators. Definitely needs extra bases. You can see he took his 6 that actually Dark still hasn't scouted. Definitely a potential kind of counterattack location if you want to go for some of the mining planetaries that the Terran will have in this super late game.
And we are getting to that super duper late game. Dark creep spread still lacking up on the upper side if he wants to come flank around for that newly taken base. Here he goes, going for it again. Does he have the abducts that he needs to grab these Liberators out of the air? Gets a couple of them. There's no longer many Hydras to get forward with the rest of his army. It is running forward and running over. Maru's army supply dropping, now down to about half of what Dark has, rolling forward with all these Banelings. And even though Maru will try to evacuate, at what cost?
Definitely the push that broke the camel's back. It was good micro out of Maru, but I think his economy just failed him. He didn't have enough stuff. He wasn't able to max out in time. He was really lacking on the gas. And so Dark eventually was just able to remax faster, took a really good fight, and won it with flying colors. Takes out both of the 2 mining bases. He's looking to win this one.
He goes from the Hamster Terran to the Camel Terran, gets his back broken by a big push from Dark. More and more Corruptors are on the way, so no amount of Liberators or Medevacs will be safe. Ghosts on the ground do decently well, but only when they're not getting run over. Damage cancels the snipe. They're not able to take out every Ultra that's coming their way.
Well, we had the glorious mule drop at that base that landed with the orbital, but I feel like the dreams of the Terran macro machine coming back in this one have been all but stamped out by the Zerg Swarm. As Dark, he has maxed out, and here come the Banelings.
So many Banelings, 27, now up to 33 on the way. Dark figured out what unit he just needs a lot of, and so he will look to roll literally over Maru's army. The Liberator count has, ascended, but we'll see if these Banelings make it far enough through. Indeed, they do, trying to split against it, but they just roll right on in. None of them actually reach those vulnerable SCVs in the background, but with the Corruptors taking out every single Liberator and only shreds of Maru's army left over. To shreds, you say. Yes, Dark.
Yeah.
This is what you are doing.
GG. Dark takes game number 1 on Abyssal Reef, as we predicted. Wow. Very nicely done. His late game in ZVT is just godlike.
Man, Dark, make a super sick guitarist. definitely knows how to shred, and to shred most heinously. That's what happened there. In the end, Dark's late game Zerg powers just kick in, and I feel like we just see this time and time again. No Zerg knows how to play late game quite as well as Dark.
This guy's a monster, and that was just Abyssal Reef. We are going into Ascension to Aiur, which is going to be actually Dark's first map pick out of the 3 that he went for. So I'm liking his chances in this one. What are you thinking, Rapid, after that first game?
I mean, it's looking like a 2-0 from Dark. If I look down my predictions, I see that Valdez has correctly predicted a 2-0. Wolf possibly correctly predicts a 2-1.
We'll see. We'll see.
We will. That's what we do here on the show.
We watch and we talk and we make points and stuff.
As they say,
it's fun.
As they say in, I think it's the perks of being a wallflower, you see and understand. That's what we do as well. Well, sometimes, I don't know, some of these builds I don't understand. Like, I think it was Abyssal with those Nidus Swarm hosts last week. I was like, whoa, hang on, I just don't understand this. So maybe there are some ununderstandable things coming up in our future. We'll get a chance to see that in our second game, which should be on the way. Our players are in the lobby and ready.
Skill level is higher than Namsam Tower.
The guy's been out here sightseeing.
Pondro Net Wars.
More Net Wars fans out here. We got all the Net Wars guys coming down here. Big fans out there. I'm not sure if Emil is out there casting these games, but I'm sure he will eventually.
Probably.
Got some representation from that community. This guy's been sightseeing. If you guys come to Seoul and haven't gone and seen Namsan Tower, it's definitely worth going and seeing. It's pretty cool. You'll see the lock walls, and if you're in a relationship with a special someone, you can put your own lock up there on Namsan Tower.
Yeah. Not the rock wall, but the lock wall with actual locks.
If you guys are from Seattle, it's like the gum wall, just less disgusting.
Yeah.
Here we go. Game number 2 is up and ready to go. It's Ascension to Aiur. Maru one game down against Dark, who pushed it to the late game and took it in the end.
Dark saying your macro, or rather your micro was good, but you couldn't get your head on straight at the end of that one. Dark, never scared to say what he feels, which is always great when you are a pro gamer, but Maru definitely has a couple of hard games ahead of him. We'll see if he can come back in this one, jumping on to Ascension to Aiur for game number 2. Here we go, game number 2. Down in the bottom right, the purple Zerg. Always Maru's nemesis. It is Dark. Sorry to spoil the other player. For you, Reed.
Way to go. You also spoiled my real name, too? Oh, my God. This is Maru. He's playing for Jin Air, and he had a little bit of a struggle dealing damage during the early part of the game where Dark's maybe most vulnerable. Every once in a while, I want to see Dark just pull out the sick early game cheeses, but it never happens. He's just so good when we push it late.
He never does, like, super early game stuff unless it's ZVZ. I feel like if it's ZVT, the only kind of very aggressive play he makes is, like, a roach timing off of 2 or 3 bases. You know, throw down a third hatch, make it look like you're going to macro up, and then just move across the map with a ridiculous amount of roaches and kill the Terran.
Well, not a single roach made last game. Valdez, so we totally skipped that this time around. And I wouldn't even be surprised if we see a third base come out very, very soon. Looks like, okay, instead he will finally commit to the gas and pull the follow. So.
Yeah, things looking normal for Dark down here. I don't think he's going to get too aggressive on this one. I think he picks this map for a reason against Maru. He said it multiple times, even in the in-game lobby, right as we were about to start, saying like, "Wow, your micro is really good. That must be because you're still young," right? Making jokes, even though Dark himself, I think, was born in like 1995 or
oh my God,
94 or something like that. Whereas Maru, I think, is 97. Or 6?
Ever notice is how we get further and further into esports, how the players get younger and younger.
It's the way it happens, right?
What a guy. Well, I think Dark is definitely a player that could stick around for a very long time. A question I always want to answer is, or just kind of see how it plays out, is we might just be at the level of StarCraft 2 players where they're just always going to be around. I mean, given the kind of head start they have on the new talent that's emerging into the scene, guys like Innovation, guys like Dark could just be the best forever for like the entire duration of this game until maybe, StarCraft 3, StarCraft remastered. I don't know. That game does...
StarCraft remastered.
Wow.
Re-remastered.
Yeah, you gotta re-remaster it. But as far as StarCraft 2 goes, these guys could just be the best forever. Dark certainly way up there as far as the names go. And he's faced off against Maru time and time and time again. I think you guys were the ones to point out in when you were discussing this matchup in Wolf and Valdez After Hours that these guys face off against each other every single SSL season. Our producer was nice enough. Wow, that land.
That Ling almost got crushed.
Yeah, he was almost like Wicked Witch of the West style in there. The toes little curl up underneath.
And
or is it east?
The Reaper, I don't actually know.
North and south. No, those are the good ones. I don't remember. Oh, wow. The Reaper Mine actually works against him and kills off those SCVs. That's actually decent damage being done. Okay, all right. I see you.
Yeah, but the Reaper did delay the third base for quite a while. Forced that one drone into an extractor.
A couple times.
Yeah, it was canceled, and then it was actually made. Not sure if maybe that was just because he wasn't looking at it, but either way, had to bring over another drone and make that third base a little bit late, a little bit later than normal. And you do see that he is putting down that Roach Warren.
Yeah, so not going to skip that this time around, maybe reading that the harassment had been a little bit too effective, saying, okay, need some roaches this time. And really nothing too much to invest in for Dark as long as it helps him survive later and later. Just so good when it comes to that late game. It looks like Maru might be setting up for a little bit of an upgrade battle himself. Double eBay is coming down.
Ling's out on the map and 9 roaches being made. I didn't think this was going to be the game where it happened, but I guess I was wrong.
It just might. We might not even be getting to a late game, Valdez.
Saying, okay,
roaches
I killed 2 SCVs and you delayed my third. Here we go.
That's all the advantage he needs. And really, the ability to engage that kill switch when you know you have it is just such a hallmark of the best players in the world. And Dark certainly among them. Knows when he can put on the pressure and break a weakened opponent. And here we go. 3 bunkers started up and on the way. And even that might not even be enough. There's 5 Ravagers.
Yeah.
In production.
5 Ravagers in production, but they are a little bit behind. You see he makes them first because they're pretty fast, but even so, I don't know. This is going to be a close hold for Maru. He is going to have Stim, which is going to be very important to hold this one off. The extra Ravagers that he's making, he's going to go up to 8 total. Corrosive Biles are going to be key for sieging this location for the majority of the time.
Now stopping at those 39 drones. That's all it's going to be, and enough Corrosive Bile to one-shot these bunkers.
Those 2 engineering bays are still upgrading the 1-1. That's definitely going to be quite nice for when this push eventually happens. 1 tank. It's going to be good for holding the back line. Here come the Corrosive Biles in on top of that bunker. It's just enough to take out a bunker. It seems like Dark, he's done this before.
He's done the math. He did lose 1 Ravager, but he has another one morphing behind it. And here we go. He's going to bop down another bunker behind this. Nothing safe from all these Corrosive Biles, but he has overextended just slightly. There's no roaches to buffer for these squishy Ravagers, and they will be forced off as every bunker does fall.
The Lings do join up here, but yeah, just going a little bit too far, even though he took out that tank. Now with the Stim, all these Marines are going to be good, but no medevacs just yet. You see the starport is very far away, so every Stim is going to be so crucial for Maru. It's going to do a bunch of damage. There's a lair on the way. Dark, he's transitioning in a way. He's making a ton of drones back. He will have 3 bases up and saturated. He's not going super all in with this one.
Now this is really interesting. So back when 3 Racks Reaper was really the TVZ build of choice, build du jour, if you will. The best part about the Zerg counter to that is you had guys like Sue, and even Dark to some extent, who figured out, well, if you just go like power aggression early, you get your gas pool up, get that Zergling speed ahead of schedule, maybe it takes a little bit out of your economy, but A, you don't die, and B, you can take out a lot of the Reapers early on, and then get your economy going after that. This feels like the same idea for Dark, saying, oh, well, maybe Maru's just going to try for that timing and try to bust me early. I'm just going to put on insane pressure, and then that'll give me enough room to upgrade and get myself into the economic battle after that.
Yeah, I think some of that thought is definitely there in this kind of push.
Maybe.
Some of the circumstances that made this happen, and now we got this push coming across. It is going to be scouted out by Dark here. It does have a bunch of units. You see he is making his own infestation pit as well very, very soon. So he wanted to tech up in the snap of a finger, but Maru wants to say no here. That Baneling Nest is very late. Only 7 Banelings being morphed right now.
Going to be coming around, maybe looking for either a flank or a counterattack. This base is under fire with a couple of siege tanks in a great spot behind. Here come the Zerglings. They will wrap around and be able to get at least a decent surround on both of those tanks. The tanks fall, and look at the retreat, trying to stem and get away, but there's not enough room in those medevacs for all of Maru's army. Half of it dies. Maru heads back home.
I cannot believe that third hatchery didn't die. He was so close.
This is perfect
it had
timing.
Like 200 health. Darky holds on, and probably a couple of transfuses came in as well, and the perfect surround. This is what the Zerg can do with flanks and positioning with his army units. That's always fantastic.
Dark might just be the perfect Zerg at this point. Such perfect
in this
timing.
Matchup, he looks about the best, as we've said many times.
Knows perfectly how to play it. He puts on the pressure, pulls back in macros. He's got great offense, great defense. What can't this guy do? If Dark started with an S, he'd be super Dark.
I feel like he's not very good at playing Ling, Bane, Muta, and that's why we never see it out of him. But, I mean, you know, whatever you're doing, if it works for you, that's very good. You see this hatchery getting lower?
Is he going to kill that tank?
No, he's not going to. This is actually the 4th. I thought it was the 3rd. Is going to continue putting on pressure. The units of Dark are not in position. The speed of the Banelings is a little bit late, coming in time.
Forward, both tanks fall, and the Marines are pushed back once again. Dark barely able to save this hatchery. Oh, Ravagers starting to fall there in numbers. First Infestor is out, but whoa! Danger, Banelings! Head in and only kill 7 SCVs. Still the thought is there.
Yeah, nice split there by Maru just at the end, and Darky doesn't have much of a standing army. He has 40 Lings, 4 Ravagers, and 1 Infestor. This is a very cute move by Maru to come in here and try to snipe a Queen. He gets it, as well as 1 Overlord.
Look at this hatchery. It just will not die. 300 HP as it has regenerated a little bit. Nice fungal there from the long-range Infestor. A tank will get tanken out, and the surround on these Marines will force Maru to pick up and head back home.
Dark is hanging on by a thread right now, by his pinky nail at this point. He has the Ultralisk Cavern on the way. It's about as fast as it could come out, given the circumstances. And he may just be able to hold on for that Ultralisk Cavern to make it out, as Maru, he's desperately trying to push here.
Our observer showing us just the Terran macro in action. While the economies might be somewhat similar, the army supply vastly in Maru's favor. And even though he's been pushed back at every turn, he's definitely turned the pressure back on to Dark's side. Look at Dark. He's trying to get 4 upgrades done at the same time. And maybe one of them will finish, but he's got a long way to go. Secure himself a trip to those 3rd and 4th.
Bailing speed is so key for holding this stuff off. He held on in time for that, and now he will have 2 Ultralisks on the way. But Maru's macro, as you were talking about, he's got that 4th command center on the way. Dark going to try to plop down his 5th in the face of it. So we're pushing ever so slightly towards that later macro game once again. Nice little fungal over here once again. Takes away that harassing force up towards the 4th. But this time I feel like Maru's definitely in a much better situation. He's finding so much more damage early game to get himself ahead and have this economy going for himself. The only thing that's kind of scary is all that tech that Dark was able to sneak out.
Yeah, I mean, it's all going to finish. I was talking about how many upgrades were in production. They're all finished, with the exception of his chitinous plating. 3, 2, 1, done. That means these ultras coming out will be just so insanely strong. Now, one thing you'll notice with this push here from Maru is that there's no real anti-ultra tech. There's no Liberators, no Ghosts. I mean, a couple in production, but they're not going to be here for this push. And with a bunch of ultras about to pop, 4 done, and Infestors still out there on the map, it could be dangerous.
It's going to need the money fungal, no doubt. Ling's coming in here, doing a little bit of harass damage. Should be able to get a nice little chunk over there, but we return to the main fight. Ling's, though, coming in. This is actually becoming a bigger problem than I had originally imagined.
The wall is down, and back at home, Maru's going to be taking damage. Decent connections there up at the front. One Liberator is there. Almost kills an Ultra, but look at this damage behind it. Maru's economy just in tatters. It's shattered and tattered. That's what it is. A big fungal lands, and more Marines get taken out.
Good Corrosive Biles takes out 2 or 3 tanks in the front line, and you can see that's a big chunk of what Maru had left over. Not sure about pushing into this one. Yeah, Dark's going to have to back off. Wanted to take out another tank, and the army size is very similar at this point in time.
That's right, Valdez. Very similar army sizes. Maybe Mules make up for that a little bit, but still pushing Maru back and back and back as far as he can. This counterattack's still getting damage done.
This is when the Biel strategy goes right. As you come in here and you take out the entire mining base.
Oh my god, look at that, 30 SCVs only. That's all that's left for Maru behind this. The Zergling's so evasive, and while this push continues to crawl forward, it's not in range of taking out any of Dark's infrastructure.
You said it yourself, it's crawling. It's crawling with one leg right now and one arm. It's barely even functioning at this point. Dark is buying himself so much time. This is a nice little cute move to deny some of that mining as Dark gives away a free Ultralisk, but
yeah, this is Maru's push right now. It's moving so slowly.
Exactly.
Across there. I don't know what else to describe it as. He's not sieging, unsieging. Sure, okay, he's got a Liberator in position. Uh-oh. No one cares. Biles take it out, and the base is once again going to be up and running. There's a tiny little Bile ball up here continuing to push, but there's just nothing coming across the map behind it, and Dark, the one going around for an attack of his own.
You can see that at the front of the natural for Dark, there's no critical infrastructure there. There's a couple of Evo chambers. What does he care about losing that? You come over here and take out the one big mining base of the Terran, you can win the game, and that's what Dark is going for.
Oh, and this is maybe even just going to do it. 20 more SCVs fall. There's only 17 left for Maru.
Those tanks can't leave. They can't leave. They're stuck. They're stuck. Oh, no. Not sure if they really would have helped out anyway, but that is really unfortunate as they finally get taken out. GG is called. Dark takes the 2-0 victory.
2-0 Dark with a big smile on his face, deserving of what was just a masterclass in Zerg versus Terran. Game 1, the super solid macro play, undefeatable. Game 2, he turns on the pressure. Aggression that Maru barely holds on to, and able to hold on after that himself and push back with a 2-0 victory. What a game, what a series. Dark just looks head and shoulders above his opposition.
Yeah, I mean, we said it so many times, it's hard to really emphasize the point any harder. This guy is really good in the matchup. If he can face off against lots of Terrans to make it into the top, the upper echelons, make it into playoffs, that would be fantastic. Unfortunately, he's got to deal with stats, he's got to deal with Deer, he's got to deal with Classic that are all around the same level. So I feel like in this tournament, yeah, picking up the win against Maru is great. He gets the 2-0. That will secure his spot into the playoffs, but I'm still wary about his chances in that ZVP, all those ZVPs that he has to play in the playoffs if he makes it there.
Well, now he's got an extra week to worry about those, and we are indeed heading into playoffs. We've got about 3 more weeks left, and that's, I think, counting this week. Right?
Counting this week,
yeah. So counting this week. So only 2 more broadcasts after this, and Dark's certainly putting himself in a great position, but, of course, playoffs are playoffs. And so I'm used to casting SSL Challenge, where there's like a stage 1 and then a stage 2. No, for Premier, we do have playoffs. They are coming up. I think they're going to be at the end of September, thereabouts.
I think the beginning of September.
Okay, beginning of the September
Yeah.
they start, and then the finals will be towards the end.
Yeah, around that time.
So not very much time, and every win does matter. Dark takes 2 of them. That's going to set us up for our final series of the night between Solar and Deer.
This was the highlight match for me. I was looking forward to Dark versus Maru, but as I predicted the 2-0, I thought it was going to be one-sided. But this one, I think, could go either way. Solar could really, even though he's sitting at 2-4, he could 100% upset Deer in a way with his fantastic ZVP. But Deer's looking really good too. What are you thinking, Rapid?
I've really been enjoying watching Zerg players play. It feels like Solar has a lot of really cool, cheeky strats, but Deer has really risen, and I feel like a lot of people, especially last season in Challenge, had a lot of bad things to say about that guy. Not just because they're people on the internet, but also because he wasn't really playing up to par for the first half of the season. Then he comes back in Stage 2 of Challenge, crushes it, makes it here into Premier, whereas guys like SOS, Zest, Patience all dropped down. Deer was the Protoss that was advancing into Premier, and he's looked really, really good this season. He's up at the top of the standings, right underneath guys like Stats, and it just looks super solid. So I want to give a slight edge to Deer, but anything could happen.
Yeah, especially in a best-of-3 format that we do have coming down here. It's a big match for Solar. He needs to win it to have a chance to make it into playoffs, whereas Deer, he's just trying to secure the kind of upper spots as he's already sitting at 5-1. Deer, after this, he has to face Dark and Hero. Definitely a couple of matchups. I think he should be favored against Dark, but against Hero, I'd say he would still be favored, but definitely a scary PvP for him to end it out. But that sound means that we are going to go to about a 5-minute commercial. When we come back, we will have the final match of the night, Solar versus Deer.